Kids from around the valley went back to school on Wednesday.
But it was a little different in Dunster,
where children attended their first day of school in tents.
Parents in Dunster continue to rally for access to their school building.
Here's what they have to say.
Well, the objective is to get back into that building as quickly as possible and speed up negotiations. That's the first objective. We do require a fully funded, publicly funded school here.
We're going to work on some music, okay? La, this is our note. La, let me do that. Can I hear your la?
You have to.
La. Actually, can you turn around in your chair for me? I'm a former teacher at the Dunster School, and I'm a volunteer here today. What I taught when I was at the school and what I do teach at other schools is drama and music.
Is there any good part about going to school in a tent?
Well, my dad was going. I would watch.
At least you get to go to a school.
With my friends.
I would much rather be in a building, but a tent's still fun. It's exciting. Strange, but exciting.
Yeah.
I hope we get the school back before it snows, because this will be really cold.
I think that you're going to get your school back. That's the way I would feel about it. And I think if you stick to it and make lots, yeah, no, I wouldn't give up at all. I think it's a totally viable thing. During the 30s, they ran these little schools, during the deepest depression, and why can't we do it today? It just doesn't make any sense.
Here, put an I in between the
Cousin.
and then N, D, S.
Good for you.
Friends.
You're doing a really good job.
Good. C-O-U.
Parents in Dunster believe that the closure of their school was about ideology, not money.
A trustee from School District 27 in the Cariboo Chilcotin spoke about his experience keeping small schools alive.
WILL VAN OSCH helped to keep the Forest Grove Elementary School alive even after it was shut down by their school district.
Van Osch was eventually elected to the school district and helped regain public funding for the school.
There's no reason a school of 30 kids can't exist. No, it's quite easy to do. Part of it is it's only practical. If you can walk, 26 kids walk to the Forest Grove School when it closed. And all of those kids have to be bused. Yeah, there's a lot of costs that nobody works into the equation and that are missed, Where they save money is getting rid of administration, so they don't need a principal again, and then they get rid of teachers by making larger classrooms in another school. Otherwise, there is no money saved. And for you, I think they upped the rural school grant this year to 156,000 or 153, something like that, and you get unique geographic factor grants. As far as the district goes, they're nuts to close a school like this.
We were actually saying, basically flying on just that rural school grant. That's what
right.
we were run on, and they didn't have to spend any money on us.
From the district's point of view, what they would say, say the extra $100,000 that you would bring into the district, more than it costs to run your school and staffing and all that kind of stuff, that would be for administrative costs, might be for busing. Some of it is for board office costs because, every school has to be administered from the board office as well as a payroll and all of those things that add up. But in real terms, they don't really lose money. And if they do, it's only a little bit. It's not worth the what these kids have to go through to go to another school.
Why do you think rural schools are being closed then?
There's a belief that larger schools are better, and it's about cost effectiveness. But until you get to around 250 students, you don't see any of those gains that you would. And most of the small schools, or most of the elementary schools in our district, are below 250. So that's really a non-starter. I kind of think it's a bit of an ideology that that bigger is better. Also, I think, that the province wanted to start charter schools, and if you want to start into P3 or P2 partnerships where somebody else owns the building and the province pays for the operation, it doesn't work very well here because the population is so dispersed. But I think in the lower mainland, Abbotsford, that area, it probably would have worked well. So they'd create magnet schools, get as many, each parent would get a voucher per student, like they do in Alberta, and you go and spend that voucher at whatever school you want to spend it on. But it doesn't work very well in rural areas. And the busing thing is a really big deal. The cost of busing has gone way up. The price of fuel has gone up and is going to continue to go up. And, we don't count the capital cost of buses in the operating portion of school district's budget, so nobody thinks anything of spending $150,000 on a bus because it doesn't come out of your operating budget. For a district, it's easy. So it used to be in 1999 that the province had to approve any school closure, and there were quite a few closures that year that didn't go through because the province wouldn't allow them. You know, the rationale that the districts used wasn't sound enough. And so then the Liberal government changed that and allowed districts to decide what schools they could open and close. And politically, it's much easier to close a small school in a town where there's only 60 people, and so what, they're going to make a big deal about it. Close the schools if you have to, where it affects the kids least. So in town, in Prince George, where it's only 2 blocks to the next school, you know, I'm not saying close their school, and I'm not saying they don't have a learning community or community based around that school. The effect on those kids is much less than it is on kids who have to travel down the highway in the middle of winter to get to the neighboring school. And the small school thing is another interesting thing. In the States, they're starting to promote small schools, even in large cities. Just that student achievement goes up almost exclusively with size of the school, you know, and it's measurable. So small schools within large schools even work well. So these little schools educationally are great. And that multi-grade split thing is, but a good teacher can handle a 4-grade split quite nicely, especially if the class size isn't too big and there isn't too many behavioral problems.
Here at the station, we have a very high regard for the Dunster School and their kids.
That's right. So we're inviting those families to become a part of the Valemount Elementary School.
Seriously, it's so much better out here.
If you want, you can set up a tent in the gym.
Speaking of tents, remember that niggling little issue of the harmonized sales tax?
Some people just can't get over it.
Like, get over it already.
Just accept that the government has the right to impose whatever taxes they want.
So you pay a little more on lots of things. What's the big deal?
Not everyone is as forward-thinking as we are.
This next concerned citizen wants everyone to continue to fight the tax.
Oh, brother.
I know. Here's John Grogan talking about an anti-HST rally.
I was at a meeting in Prince George a couple of days ago. And it was a planning meeting of fighting the HST in the north. We're going to have a rally in Prince George at Pat Bell's office on September 25. That's a Saturday at 10 a.m. And everybody, if they could please mark their calendars, they're looking for a huge turnout. And we're somewhat unrepresented so far from the Robson Valley and Mackenzie and those far-reaching places, the heartland. 700,000 people have signed that petition, and now they're waiting to see some results. And this is another opportunity for them to voice their opinion in a meaningful way. I really do think that this is as much about democracy as it is about a disliked tax.
So you think it's essentially a good tax, it just got in undemocratically?
No, I don't think it's a good tax. I think that it's a redistribution of wealth. I went to UNBC to listen to Pat Bell debate with the Canadian Policy Alternatives. What came to my mind was he was talking about the resource industry, and I think the resource industry funded his election campaign. So he was saying how good it was for the resource industry, and then the trickle-down economy would occur. And I think that sounds like Reaganomics. And you know, if a tide raises all boats, that's okay as long as you're not shackled to the bottom of low tide and flood your boat. Look at here, the forest industry collapse and all these logs getting shipped away. I think that there's an unfair advantage to the corporate economic structure in British Columbia today. If people go to fighthst.com, they can stay updated daily. There's developments.
They've got a website?
I know.
FightHST.com. At least it's easy to remember.
Websites are gauche.